What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And in this video, we're going to start our three-part series titled the EP40 Chronicles. Now, in this video, we're going to dive deep into the burning questions surrounding the Vancouver Canucks star player Elias Pettersson. Will the Canucks trade Petey or won't they? And in this particular video, this is what we're going to cover. We're going to analyze the current trade rumors around Elias Pettersson, examine the reasons for and against a potential trade, discuss the potential impact of trading Petey on the Canucks lineup, looking at comparable trade scenarios in the NHL, and we're going to provide insight from our Vancouver-based hockey fan perspective. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. I'm going to hit the intro, and then we're going to get right into the nitty-gritty, and we're going to discuss will they or won't they trade Elias Pettersson. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the line change. Now, for our first part in this three-part series on Elias Pettersson, the EP40 Chronicles, as I like to call it, we're going to talk about, and discuss will they or won't they trade Elias Pettersson. Now, prior to the recording of this video and prior to, I guess, the last few days, I was completely under the impression that at this point, I didn't think the Canucks were even going to consider trading Petey, just based off the fact that it had been so quiet when it came to the talk about trading Pettersson. It seemed like that fizzled out. A lot of people were, talking about Abby or probably consumed with the playoffs. So all the talk around Pettersson at the end of the season kind of quieted down, and no one was really talking about it until a few days ago or within the last week. Frank Saravelli of the Daily Faceoff came out with his trade board, and actually Elias Pettersson was on his trade board along with Thatcher Demko, but we're focusing on Pettersson here. So yeah, he was on his trade board. Let's take a look actually at what he said when it comes to being on the trade board, or I should say trade targets list. So let's go ahead and look at it. I will leave a link to the article in the description, at least from Canucks Army, as where I'm getting it from. So let's Elias Pettersson comes in at number 20. This is a massive summer for Pettersson, whether he's skating with the Canucks in October or elsewhere. He says an injury prevented a normal offseason of training last summer. The Canucks have been very clear about their disappointment on how he arrived to camp. So ahead of a full no-trade clause kicking in on July 1st, will Vancouver check his market value this summer? Will they seek to cut ties, or will they roll the dice and hope his game rebounds to where it was 2 seasons ago? Now, we're going to move over to a different article. This one is on Sportskeeda, and it talks about the trade rumors when it comes to Elias Pettersson. And we're going to start off by saying NHL insider David Pagnotta reported that the Vancouver Canucks will continue to entertain trade talks for center Elias Pettersson. Following a disappointing season, the Canucks are heading to a busy offseason due to salary cap constraints, coaching changes, and other factors, suggesting the team's roster may look significantly different next season. With only $14 million in cap space and several free agents to address, the Canucks will likely need to make tough calls. Elias Pettersson's no movement clause takes effect on July 1st. Pagnotta noted that Pettersson remains a trade target with the Canucks open to discussions. The insider explained that the asking price for the 26-year-old has not changed significantly, meaning any team interested will need to offer a substantial package to acquire him from Vancouver. Uh, Here's a quote from uh, David Pagnotta. The 26-year-old center will see his no movement clause kick in July 1st, and the belief across the NHL is the Canucks will continue to entertain trade calls. It does not sound like the price tag has changed much, if at all, so a team will have to pay up to pry him out of BC. Now, this is a quote from Pagnotta via the fourth period. Pagnotta added that the Buffalo Sabres may consider pursuing him again, but they will not be the only team in the race. He goes on to quote Pagnotta again. Do the Sabres take another swing? They surely won't be the lone team to try. Pettersson experienced a decline in his performance this season, particularly after signing an 8-year, $92.8 million contract extension. He notched 45 points through 15 goals and 30 assists in 64 games. Meanwhile, the Canucks missed the postseason after finishing fourth in the West wildcard settings with a 38-30 and 14 record. So there's that talking about. So yeah, obviously Buffalo is a good trade destination for Pettersson. Maybe even Carolina. Carolina has obviously been brought up in the past, especially last season. So two teams obviously come to mind when it comes to potential destinations for Elias Pettersson: the Buffalo Sabres and the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, the Sabres like the idea of Pettersson, as they believe they can, for lack of a better term, fix him. But so there's that. Obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes were interested, and there was almost a move made a year ago when it came to the Hurricanes. Before Pettersson signed that $11.6 million deal, it seemed like they almost traded him to the Hurricanes, but that fell through. And then the same thing with the deadline this year, or actually prior to the deadline, I should say, when both Pettersson and Miller were on the trade block. They were saying Miller almost was traded to Carolina before Carolina decided to go with Rantanen. So there's that. But circling back to what I said at the beginning of this video, where I was under the impression that they weren't going to trade him and yada yada yada, and that really had me thinking, because it's technically June 3rd. Petey's no move clause kicks in less than a month, and technically no trades can be made until after the playoffs. Like, no trades can actually be officially finalized or go through until after the playoffs are over. And looking at the Stanley Cup final schedule, the earliest that could probably happen, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below, would be after the 20th of June, as that would be Game 7 between the Oilers and the Panthers if it goes the full 7 games. Before that, I believe it's the 17th of June would be Game 6, and then Game 5, which is probably the earliest that the Stanley Cup Finals could end, if there's not a sweep, would be June 14th. So you're looking at, between the 14th of June and the 20th of June, after those days could potential trade talks, not talks, but trades be actually put into motion and potentially finalized. So that gives the Canucks a 10-day window to decide if they're going to trade Pettersson or not before his no move clause kicks in. Obviously, there's the chance they could trade him at the draft. So there's that, which would be, I believe it's a few days before his no movement clause kicks in, so they could do it then. But even after seeing Frank Cervelli's trade target thing and reading that article from Pagnotta, I'm still under the impression that the Canucks are not going to trade Elias Pettersson. They already are looking for a second line center, and you trade Pettersson you would most certainly want to get a center in return. And if that's not on the table when it comes to a, potential trade of Pettersson, they're not going to do it. No, because they know they're losing a center. They're going to want a center back. So if they're having to go out and find two centers, that's going to be a big ask, and it's going to be very daunting, especially in an off season where the UFA class is not very good when it comes to centers. I mean, yeah, you have your Sam Bennett as your basically big target when it comes to centers, and we already know it's already daunting for them to find a second line center. It would be even more daunting if they had to go out and find a first line center on top of that. So I'm still under the impression that they're not. So my answer to the question, will they or won't they trade Petey? I don't think they will. No, I think they're going to roll the dice and they're going to bank on Pettersson having a comeback season. I think he's going to, you know, hopefully come back or show up to training camp in shape this time. You would you would hope he's learned his lessons from last season. Obviously, he doesn't have JT Miller there to, essentially whip his ass and be like, hey, he doesn't have that. But the main question is, have Alvin and Rutherford lost faith in Pettersson because of that? Ben, are they going to have a itchy trigger finger? But as I mentioned already, I don't think they're going to. I think they are going to see if Pettersson bounces back. Keep in mind, Pettersson is only 26 years old. And it's not like Pettersson or a player of Pettersson's caliber and his talent to just drop off the face of the earth. Like when it comes to his production, you don't just lose that talent just out of nowhere. So I definitely think Pettersson's going to bounce back next season, and I think the Canucks are going to keep him. They will not trade him. And moving on to part two, we're going to discuss and talk about and also ask the question, actually, you know what? I'll save that for part three. So for part two, we're going to discuss what went wrong for Elias Pettersson this past season. We're going to ask that question. We're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it. So that'll be part two. Part two of the EP40 Chronicles will be, basically what happened. We're going to talk about the tendonitis. We're going to talk about the injuries. We're going to talk about him not coming into camp in shape and, the team not being happy, or I should say management not being happy about that. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about that. And then part three, as I mentioned, is going to be the grand finale of this series, of this three-part series. And we're going to beg the question, will he bounce back? So when it comes to part two, I haven't decided on when it's going to come out. It could come out, I'm thinking maybe next week. So Tuesday next week is when part two will come out. And then maybe I'll have a week in between part two and part three. And then, so yeah, I think we're going to go with that. If there's any changes, I'll let you guys know right away. But before I go, I'd like to thank my sponsor of this video, Gassy Jack Art. So a big thank you to Gassy Jack Art. For those of you that do not know who Gassy Jack Art is, Gassy Jack Art produces hockey prints on archival paper and canvas that have been rated to last over 100 years. Their product range features a variety of players from different teams, including Edmonton Oilers, Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Calgary Flames, Colorado Avalanche, and your Vancouver Canucks, as well as more. They also have non-hockey related prints as well, which you can take a look at. Of course, go ahead and check them out. GassyJackArt.com. There is a link to his website in the description down below. And yeah, I have 4 prints of my own. Speaking of 4 prints, he has a end of season sale going on right now where you can buy 4 prints for the price of 2. Now that is one heck of a steal. So basically all you have to do is add 4 prints to your shopping cart and 2 of them will be free. So you're only technically paying for 2. So go ahead, check them out, gassyjackart.com. Trust me, you're not going to regret it. As I mentioned, I have 4 prints. As you can see with the picture in front of you, uh, I got those 4 are the first batch. I'm already waiting for my second batch of 4 prints. And obviously, I'm going to be putting them up and having them on display. So go ahead, check them out, gassyjackart.com. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. As always, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Canucks content, whether that's Vancouver Canucks or Abbotsford Canucks, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us on social media. Just search The Line Change to find us on Facebook. You'll find our Facebook page. Find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Van. You can find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. And of course, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you prefer a audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Once again, feel free to give us a follow on Spotify as well as give us a rate and review. It's, of course, greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for me and part 1 of the EP40 Chronicles. As I mentioned, stay tuned for part 2, which will be coming out next week, next Tuesday. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.